For more on elections, let's bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cortez.
So great to be here with both of you.
It's a treat to have you here.
Happy Election Day.
Happy Election Day. It's going to be a late night for you guys. What is President Biden's message been in this final stretch?
Well, he's sticking to this argument that democracy is on the ballot and that a vote for Democrats means a vote for the belief in elections. He's also stumping on his record, arguing that he actually got a lot done over the first 2 years of his presidency, and in a sense arguing that his agenda is maybe more popular than he himself is at the moment. He argues that all the things he was able to do, whether it was funding infrastructure or clean energy incentives or cutting back on prescription drug costs, those are things that the American people like, even if they're frustrated right now with how high inflation is, not just here in the U.S., but around the country and around the world.
The last three times the president's party was swept out of power in Congress, you were there for each of them. 2006, President Bush called it a thumping.
Yep.
2010, President Obama called it a shellacking. 2 years ago, President Trump read the names of the Republicans who lost, kind of taunted them for not sidling up close enough to him.
He actually claimed victory, even though his party lost control of the House, which was a novel concept.
Do you think President Biden speaks tomorrow? What do you think he's prone to say if this happens?
I think he will speak because it is customary and traditional for presidents to do that after a midterm election. And President Biden is someone who tends to hew to tradition, even though the White House hasn't announced that he's going to speak about it. I suspect that he will want to make his feelings known. And, even last night, he was already clearly girding for the possibility that his party could lose control, at least of the House. He was asked by a reporter as he headed back to the White House after a rally in Maryland, how are things going to change in Washington? And he said they're going to be more difficult. And it wouldn't take much. It doesn't take a huge red wave for Republicans to take control of the House or the Senate. They only need 5 seats in the House. That's a ripple. They need 1 seat in the Senate. And so I'd say that the Biden advisors I've spoken to are pretty realistic. They look at history. They know what's happened in the past. But one of them argued to me today that, look, President Obama lost seats in the midterms. President Clinton lost seats in the midterms. And guess what? They both won re-election 2 years later. It's obviously they're hoping that they will follow that tradition as well.
Kevin McCarthy has been pretty candid about what he wants his party to do if they take control. What has he been saying?
Well, he's been saying that their goal first and foremost is to cut spending. That's very challenging to do with legislation because even if Republicans were to take over the House and the Senate, the president's got a veto pen. And if he doesn't like their spending cuts, it's going to be impossible for them to enact them. So what they're looking for is leverage, ways that they can force the president to negotiate with them to cut spending that they don't like, either overall government spending or some of the funding that he has signed into law recently, clean energy incentives or the Inflation Reduction Act, even possibly funding for Ukraine. They don't have a lot of points of leverage, as Scott knows better than anyone. What it means is that when we're facing a government funding deadline, they could play footsie with a government shutdown to try to force him to meet them halfway. Or in the middle of next year, when the debt ceiling needs to be raised, that's another time that they say they may play hardball to try to get him to negotiate with them.
Has the White House gamed that out? Because if they flirt with the debt ceiling, just flirting with breaching on that causes waves in the U.S. economy. They have to come up with a contingency at the White House.
It can cause a downgrade in the U.S. credit rating. That has happened before. And it is risky for both parties. When Democrats took control of the House 4 years ago, they immediately went toe-to-toe with President Trump, and the result was a 40-day government shutdown. And that has huge ramifications. So, we'll see how it plays out, but it's one of those situations where you never quite know who exactly is going to get the blame at the end of the day and how bad it will be for the U.S. economy. So the question is, how far do you want to take that particular gambit?
It's a good reminder the last midterm election was followed by a government shutdown, and that Congress came in during a government shutdown. We heard from Speaker Pelosi last night, and indicating it's possible she walks away from Congress if she loses the speakership for the second time in 12 years.
Right.
Covered her a long time. She's Surprised you to hear that? Guess it's inevitable.
I was a little surprised to hear her say it out loud, though, of course, the situation has now changed for her. She's got a husband who was very badly injured in an attack at their home. He may need a long time to convalesce. She may want to be there for him. So she said, quite frankly, that her decision is going to depend in part on his condition and what she thinks is important for her to do vis-a-vis his situation. But frankly, even before this terrible incident, there had been a lot of open questions about whether she would decide to stay in Congress if she loses the Speaker's gavel and goes back to being in the minority. That's a position she's held before. She's been in Congress for 3 decades, and certainly there are a lot of young Democrats who are pushing for a new set of leaders in the party. So all of those things may factor into her decision about whether to stay or whether to leave early.
It just reminds me, we heard those echoes in 2011, and 11 years later,
Here
still
we are
here
again. Yep.
Nancy Cordes, big night ahead. Thank you.
Good to be with you both.